Welcome everyone to another virtual Excel camp for pre-symbolic language. Welcome campers. This is our outdoors week today, and today we are talking about nature. We are glad to have you join us today. You can feel free to let us know where you're from and who you are. We'll say hello to you.
Hello campers, this is Andrea and I am outside. Oh, sorry, Leanne.
No, you can go right ahead and say hi. You can say more about you now if you want.
So my name is Andrea and I'm outdoors, which is fitting for today because we are going to be talking about nature and the outdoors. And my name's Andrea Amestoy. I've been a teacher of the visually impaired with IESDB for about 5 years now. And in a former life, I was a pediatric and neonatal intensive care unit nurse.
And Jessica?
I'm Jessica Chamblin. I go by Miss Jess when I work in schools. I have worked mostly with students who are deafblind. I am now a TBVI and I work for the Intermediate School District 917 in Rosemount, Minnesota. So I will be doing our first activity with you today.
And Miss Anahit?
Good morning, well, good afternoon or morning, wherever you are at, everybody. This is Anahit, and I am a student. I'm studying to be a teacher of visually impaired. I have been working at the Colorado Center for the Blind. I actually work with adults, and we work on independence skills to make sure that everybody stays independent as long as they possibly can. I am also a mom of 2 teenagers, so I'm really looking forward to today, and welcome everyone.
Okay, well, take it away. Again, welcome campers. We're so glad to have you with us today.
And I'm going to start off with our tactile object. For those of you who may have made one, I am holding up the small 2x2 cardboard with 2 strips of fabric. They're actually burlap that are close together. And that is our symbol for hello and welcome.
So I will go ahead and share our schedule for today. So if you have that tactile object, you can use that. And just so we can kind of anticipate our day, first we'll do our welcome. So those 2 lines straight down. In that, we're going to do our stretches. So if you have a rubber band handy, that will be coming up. After we do our welcome, I'm going to do our sharing. So I hope you collected a lot of objects on our nature walk yesterday. If you didn't, you can certainly look and see what I've got. I found quite a lot of stuff this morning. After I'm done sharing, we're going to have about a 7-minute break. We'll have music. If you need some time to collect your materials from outside or just some craft materials for Miss Andrea after our break, that would be a good time to do that. Maybe change positions and get ready to do an activity. After our craft, we will be all done. And then we will see you again in July after that. I'm gonna stop our share. So if you have your rubber bands ready, if you wanna touch them yourself, you can. If it's better for another person to hold it and stretch it and you just put your hands on theirs and feel the elasticity, that's a great idea. So if you are ready, I'm ready. Let's do our stretches. Both arms straight forward in front of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wonderful. Arms straight out above you. If you just want a little bit, you can, whatever's comfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last stretch. Wrap your arms around you like a hug. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect.
And we are finished with that one.
We have finished our welcome. So if you have the object, you can place it in the all done bucket. Or if you're using picture schedules like I'm going to take it off of my schedule. And the next thing we're gonna do is share what we found on our nature walk. It'll take me just a second to get this ready. I actually went on my walk this morning. So I went around my neighborhood. I live in Minnesota, and I'm in a residential area, which means there's not a whole lot of land without houses. So most of the things that I found came from the side of the road and a couple of places where they had decorated. Most of my objects that I found were the color green. And I talked about the color green earlier this week, that green is a color that feels like life and is kind of waxy like these leaves. If you run your fingers over leaves, the top of them are smooth. And underneath, I can feel that there are little ridges. And that's how the water goes through and nourishes the leaf. We have a lot of different kinds of trees in Minnesota. Some trees give us leaves that are wide and broad, like this maple leaf. Other trees give us spiny, pokey leaves, like from this pine tree. The branch of the tree is brown. And again, brown is a really rich, darker color. Brown reminds me of soil. It reminds me of autumn, like crunching leaves, or maybe you've jumped in a pile of leaves. You know that smell? That smells like brown to me. And you don't have to copy along with me, but I like to do the outlines of leaves and things that I find in nature. So this is a frond from a fern. So it has a long, thin spine down the middle. And each of the leaves is connected on its own to the frond. And they're not very long. They're about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and they get smaller the closer you get to the top. If you have one of these plants in your house, you could probably explore what those fronds feel like when you run your fingers along them with the leaves or against the leaves. And the leaves on my fern plant are green. And green is a color you experience a lot in nature. A lot of leaves and stalks of plants are green. A lot of vegetables outside are green. Some other things that I found in nature were flowers. You might have flowers in your house. You might have flowers in your garden. It's possible that when you're on a walk, you might see some small flowers along the side of the road. Usually, our flowers are very, very bright in color. The reason for this is that bees and other insects are attracted to the bright colors, and that's how they pollinate and make more flowers. Another common trait about flowers is that they tend to be very fragrant, which means they have a strong smell, and often that smell is really pleasant. At this time of the year in Minnesota, we don't have a lot of flowers blooming. We usually see flowers blooming in the spring. But at this point in the summer, and we've had a really warm summer this year, there aren't as many flowers. My favorite flower is actually the daisy. A daisy is a very small white flower with a yellow center. I'm going to start by drawing the center of my daisy, which is yellow. I think of yellow as a very happy color. I only have orange for a marker though, so I'm going to use orange, but yellow reminds me of the heat of the sun when it's gentle and warm, not when it's burning, just when it's calm and warm and refreshing on the skin. Yellow smells to me like lemons, and it tastes, sometimes it tastes strong like a lemon. Sometimes it tastes soft and mellow like a banana. But yellow, no matter what, really feels like springtime to me. When I'm drawing my daisy now, I have colored the middle orange, and around the circle, I'm adding small, thin petals. And I'm not going to color the petals anything. I'm going to leave them white. For me, white is a clean color. It reminds me of the smell of fresh washed laundry or a new book, kind of the smell of a brand new book. It feels like winter. So if I were going to give a season to the color white, I would pick winter, like fresh fallen snow. On my daisy, I'm adding a stem. And I'm coloring that stem green. Green, that color that feels like life in spring. Because usually the stems of flowers and plants are green. I also, when I was outside today, found some pine cones. Since we have a lot of pine trees in Minnesota, we have a lot of pine cones. This pine cone that I have is really hard. If I squeeze it, it's rough. It doesn't give very easily. I found another pine cone that is very soft. It kind of sounds like crackling leaves. And you can see that the little, what are they, like petals are coming off. A third pine cone that I found is more flat and small. It fits in the palm of my hand and I can wrap my entire hand around it. All my pine cones are brown. Brown is that earthy, rich color. I also found some sticks that came off of trees and some bark. The bark has many different colors. It has some green, there we go. Has some greens and browns and very light brown. The last thing that I have to share are some stones. So you might have found some rocks outside when you were walking. My driveway has a couple rocks in it that I found. The rocks that are in my driveway are sort of plain. So they are a dull pinkish color. When we compare the color of rocks to the color of flowers, there's a really big difference. The color of flowers is very bright and loud. It's kind of like if you're listening to music and you turn the volume all the way up. That's what a flower is. It's kind of like that with your sense of smell too. If you smell a flower, it's really loud and vibrant. Rocks usually are not as loud as flowers. They blend in. So it's like if you're listening to that music and you put a blanket over the speaker. That's how the color of rocks is different from the color of flowers. There are still rocks that have bright colors. They're just not as bright as a flower. This is actually a piece of petrified wood that I got when my family was traveling in Arizona. I did a lot of traveling as a child, so I have a lot of different rocks from different places. This is a piece of granite that came from the creek at my family's house in Ohio. This rock is very smooth because it's been tumbled around in the water for a long, long time. It has a slight pink color. Pink for me is a very soft, light, happy color. It's not as vibrant as red, which is very loud. Pink is more of a whisper compared to red. It's like mixing the intensity of red with the calmness of white. It kind of tastes like watermelon or cotton candy or sugar. This rock also has black flecks and some shiny reflective mica inside. Mica is a type of rock. Some rocks are smooth and shiny. This is a piece of obsidian. So it is black, smooth, and shiny. Some rocks are what's called a fossil. So this a long time ago was a shell that over the course of time and nature turned into a rock. Some rocks, like I said, are colorful, like this amethyst. This is a purple stone. Purple reminds me of a very elegant color. Purple to me tastes like grape juice or grape Kool-Aid. If it's a really vibrant purple, that really strong taste of grape Kool-Aid. So those are the things that I found in nature. I hope you have some things that you found on your walk as well. We're going to go ahead and take our 7-minute break. If there's anything you would like to share while we're on break and before we do our stretches, feel free to put it in the chat. You certainly do not have to. So right now we are all done with our sharing time. We have, Andrea, you're muted.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, perfect. Right now I'm holding the 2x2 tactile card with the cotton ball that is a symbol, the tactile symbol for break.
And I'm moving forward, taking our share time off. And on the screen is a picture of a of a person leaning back in a chair, ready to take their break. So again, it'll be about 7 minutes. I will have
You have
some music
one
playing.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the question disappeared. Okay, maybe the question is gone. You can start the break, but if they have questions, they can type in the chat if they really needed some help.
Perfect. And there we go. This is Miss Jess. We have about 3 minutes left of our break, so that's when we've been adding in some guided stretching. So if you would like to do some stretching, please feel free. I have my rubber band here to indicate that it is time to do some stretching. first thing I'm gonna do is take my right hand and cross it over to the left side of my body and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna do the opposite and take my left hand and cross it to the right side of my body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next, let's put our arms straight out in front of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Put our arms straight up in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's do our arms straight down or behind you. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last stretch, arms wrapped around you like a hug. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We will go ahead now and let everyone get a chance to come back. It's been about 7 minutes, so if you are ready, feel free to let us know.
I am
Otherwise,
ready.
we have a few seconds and we'll let everyone kind of gather back. And I will go ahead and share the schedule, because we are done with our break. So I'm going to take that off of my schedule. And next is a craft.
So this is Miss Andrea, and I am holding up my 2x2 cardboard square with, you might be able to see it a little better on this side. There's 2 smaller squares of cardboard glued on top, and that's our symbol for craft. Okay, so I'm going to be using my light box down here. I'm not going to turn it on because I think it's going to be better visible as it is. So you guys let me know though if you're having a hard time seeing it or anything that I can help adjust to make it look a little bit better for you guys. Okay, I want to tell you about what I found quickly on my nature walk. And I live in Boise, Idaho. I bought the house that I grew up in that my dad built. And so it was really fun to walk around and really take time to check out what was around. So first off, I went out into our pasture and I found these interesting pods. And if you can hear them, they're all dry. They're very brittle because they have dried, and these are from locust trees. And inside of these pods are these like pulpy material that's very soft like a pillow. And those have all fallen out because these are broken and have fallen on the ground where my goats are. So if you hear these, and you hear them, they're very crunchy. Maybe like if you've ever heard cereal crunch or leaves crunch underneath you. And the other thing that I found is when I was trying to pick these for my nature project, my goat started eating them. So I looked it up, and goats love these locust pods. So I gave them some more for a snack. Luckily, I saved these for our project. The other thing I found is bamboo. And this is a tree, a plant that grows fairly straight. And can anyone guess what animal loves bamboo? Panda bears love bamboo. This grows in China, but we can also grow it here in the US. And where I live, it stays green all year long. So it's not necessarily an evergreen, but it does stay green. So that's kind of fun. And it's very straight. The branches are straight. The leaves are pretty straight and narrow. They're thin, they're very thin leaves. And if I was to take the leaves off, you could feel the stem being straight. So these are kind of my more straight plants that I found. A more curvy plant that I found was this one. And this one, oh goodness, what is the name of this tree? This is a one that when the wind blows through it, it makes a beautiful sound when the leaves rattle together. So I'm going to rattle those leaves together. And this one's curvy. So if I was to take my hand and feel it, it would kind of undulate or curve. And it's green, as Miss Jess described. Green is like the smell of grass. Or if you've ever tasted a cucumber, it's cool, it's refreshing, it's fresh. It's like springtime if you were to compare it to a season. So I have that as well. Some other things I found are some evergreen trees. How many of you guys have evergreens where you live, or pine trees? And these are the ones that Miss Jess talked about that have cones with them. And I actually paid more attention, and I found 3 different varieties of pine trees around my house, and I tied them with a rubber band next to their pine cone. And Miss Jess talked about how some pine cones are squishy and some are hard. And if I'm feeling all of these pine cones, this one that I'm holding right now is kind of hard and brittle, and pine cones can be sharp, they can be rough, they can have pointed ends on them. And this pine cone that I'm holding has with it the needles on the tree that it came from are called needles. They're not called leaves, and they're nice and long. And these ones are sharp on the ends. That's probably why they're called needles, because they're very pokey. So I thought that was interesting that that pine cone went with that tree. Then this one, if I was to squish this pine cone, it's kind of soft. It's very soft. And even thinking about yesterday's activity, I wonder if it would float in water. The needles that this pine cone came from are very soft. They would actually feel very nice when they're rubbed against your skin. This last pine tree, if you can hear that, it kind of makes a fun sound. And the pine needles that it's associated with are very sharp. It would not, owie, it would not feel good if it's against my skin. I don't like that one. So next time you guys are at the park or in your backyard, try to see if you can feel some of the different pine needles and see if there's one that you like and if it feels good against your skin. And these stay green all year long, which is pretty cool. All right, the next thing I found on my walk around my house are different flowers. And we have all these herbs. I love to grow herbs, so I have lavender, which smells wonderful. Maybe like when you pull the laundry out of the dryer and it's all dry, maybe your support person uses laundry sheets that smell like lavender, or maybe you use it to help you go to sleep at night. The smell is very relaxing. So if I rub these beautiful purple flowers that purple color that looks like grape Kool-Aid, and I smell them, oh, it's so relaxing. So that's my lavender. And I have some other flowers. This one's chamomile. Some people make tea and they drink chamomile tea from that. And then I have sage, and sage feels very earthy. It might smell like soup, like hearty soup that you might smell in the wintertime. It's very, I'd say more of a heavier, cooler smell. If you were to smell sage, it's very pungent when you smell that in the nose. So if you ever have had a chance to be in an herb garden or grow herbs, they are so fun to feel with your hands and then have someone help, and you can bring that to your nose and smell it. And that's an amazing feeling. And then I have this beautiful flower. I don't know what this is, but it's yellow and it has spikes, these beautiful long petals that come out. And it reminds me of the sun. With the rays of the sun, it's yellow, it's hot. It's very pretty, and I'm sure the bees love, love, love this flower. Okay, so let's go back to our pine cones. If anybody has a pine cone that maybe they found on their nature walk, if you can get that handy. And you can do this now or you can do this later. I took one of my squishy pine cones that felt very soft to the touch, and I took a pipe cleaner and I wrapped it around the end. And if you happen to have some peanut butter or nut butter around, the birds will love you for this. You're going to take a little bit of the peanut butter and scoop that out, and then you're going to smear it on your pine cone. I don't know if anyone's ever helped with making a peanut butter sandwich, but we're going to pretend this pine cone is the bread, and we're going to be putting peanut butter on the pine cone instead. How many of you guys like peanut butter? Some people might be allergic to peanut butter. There's lots of different butters out there with nuts. You can have almond butter. Some people like almond butter. Some people like cashew butter. So there's lots of different butters. So if you're allergic, this may not be the best thing to try, but if you're not, or you can have your support person help you, you're going to go ahead and take that pine cone and put peanut butter on it, and then find a place outside near a window that you can open to hear the birds. And you're going to tie that on the branch of your tree. And this could be your tree, your own personal tree. And you can name this tree if you'd like. You can hang this in the tree. And then throughout the day, you have to be very quiet. See it and hear if there are birds that are going to enjoy this peanut butter. You might also get some squirrels who love to eat this peanut butter. So that's kind of a fun craft that we can do with our nature objects that we found. Okay, something else that's fun to do as a craft is ask your support partner if they happen to have any parchment paper. And a lot of people use parchment paper for cooking and baking. It helps the cookies not stick to the cookie sheet. So this is the parchment paper, and I took 2 hydrangea flowers, and then a hydrangea bush is different colored. It's a beautiful bush. It has different colored flowers. And these flowers can range from the color of them from purple to white to pink. And the reason they turn those different colors is based on how much acidity the soil has. And I think that's so interesting because the plants take up all their nutrients. They eat from the soil. And so what their color of their flowers are, for hydrangea bushes at least, is because of what's in the soil. So I took 2 of the hydrangea leaves and I put some parchment paper down, folded it in half, and I pressed that overnight between 2 books. I'm going to turn my light on here to see if you guys can see that a little better. Does that help a little bit for this at least? And using the help of your support person, you're going to get an iron, put it on low, and then you're going to iron over this for about 15 seconds. Once that's ironed, this is a beautiful kind of forever thing that you can keep and put on the light box. You could hang it from a window to let the light shine through. And you could find different flowers from your house, from nature, and press them. This is my fresh flower, but you'd press them under some books. And once they're dried and pressed and flat, then you're going to iron them, and you have this beautiful picture to use around your house. Okay. If there's any questions about that, please feel free to type any of those in the chat box. Okay, a few other things I wanted to show you from my nature walk before we do our last craft are feathers. Look at all these beautiful feathers. Has anyone felt a feather or maybe pet a pet bird or a chicken? Feathers are amazing. They're very lightweight. They're very soft. I'm going to turn my light box off to see if we can see that a little better. It's a different view. So I have some black feathers, some long white feathers, and some smaller very small downy feathers that will tickle you. If you are ticklish and you enjoy that sensation of being tickled, your support partner can see if they can find a feather. They're also sold at craft stores, or you can look around in the environment, make sure they're clean, and you can see if you're ticklish with these feathers. These smaller ones are softer. They're the downy feathers. And these feathers are all from my chickens. So my chickens will shed these feathers, they fall out, and then they grow new feathers. And the feathers are awesome. They keep them warm. They keep them insulated when it's cold outside. So our chickens can live in the winter outside, and they help them fly. Chickens aren't good flyers, but most birds are. Chickens can fly a little bit, but they're not as beautiful of a flyer as like a hawk or an eagle or any of those type of birds. So I think feathers are amazing. So if you guys can find feathers, and perhaps a couple ways to use them is you can just arrange them like so. You could glue them onto a piece of cardboard. You could get contact paper, which is sticky on one side, and peel off the backing and stick them to the contact paper. And then I think it's fun if you wanted to do a craft and you're talking about straight lines, where you could glue 3 feathers down, or you could glue 3 leaves or these locust trees. And then that hand could feel what's straight. That is straight. And practice going over your craft. So that's one way to use that. And then I'm just going to play around with all the things I found. So you can find all the nature objects you found. And you can make a face. So there's my smile with my feather and my eyes. And maybe
Your
I'll
eyes were
choose
2 leaves, right?
I'm sorry, my eyes are 2 leaves. I apologize. Yes, my eyes are 2 green leaves from the quaking aspen, and one is larger than the other. So let me see if I can find eyes that maybe are similar in size. These leaves are oval. And then I have my pine cone nose. I chose a small little pine cone for my nose. And then I took one of my white feathers that's kind of curvy, like a smile. And I made my face with my nature products that I found. So that's one thing that you can do. And I wanted to share the last thing with you. And this is the most exciting thing that I found on my nature walk. I love birds, and I was so excited to find this beautiful bird's nest in a tree. Now, I did not take this nest from the mama bird. The mama bird had left it a long time ago this spring, and I've been watching it. I watched the mama bird, and I'm holding, that's on my light box, is a circular nest. And if your support partner could draw, if you're okay with this, a circle where it might feel comfortable for you, maybe the back of your hand, maybe your palm, what a circle feels like. Birds build nests in circles. They're not perfect because that symmetry with the twigs that this mama bird got are not perfectly circular, but she did an amazing job. There are, I'd say, boy, hundreds of little twigs that it was a mourning dove that she gathered and made her nest in. She had two eggs. One I took into the bird center because this mom had abandoned her nest. I think she might have, I'm not sure, got chased away maybe by a cat. So one of the eggs was hatching, and this one had started to hatch. There, I'm holding a little egg about the size of, boy, I'd say maybe a big walnut. It's oval, smooth, it's all white. There's a little hole that the baby started to poke out of. That was right here. So that's a tiny egg. And then my chicken this morning laid a very big egg that's different in color. It's slightly green, and it's from what's called an Easter egg chicken, and it's very large. So the comparison of these two eggs, this, if I had a chicken egg in here, that would be a very large egg for a quail to have to, or a mourning dove to have to sit on and hatch. They're smaller birds. Chickens are larger. So that mama bird sat on this little tiny egg. And that was really fun to watch her. So when you're out in nature, have your support partner and you guys be on the lookout and listen for the sounds of birds. If there's a nest, sometimes birds build their nests up high. That would be tough to touch because they're way up high. If they're low and there's no birds around and no eggs and it's been an abandoned nest, maybe you could explore that. If you can find your favorite tree, I'm holding a pine cone here, and feel those evergreens. What does it feel like in the winter? Are they cooler? How about the spring? They're always going to be green. And then see if you can find what's called a deciduous tree, like this quaking aspen, where the leaves change. So right now, the plant I'm holding, all the leaves are green. They're very soft and supple. They're flexible. And then go out to that same tree in the fall. And when those leaves have changed, they're going to turn colors. Some will turn orange, some will turn yellow, some will turn red. And they're going to be more crunchy and crackly. And they may fall right off into your hand and go all the way down to the ground. You might hear them crunch under your toes and your feet as you walk on them or step on them or smush them. And that's your tree in the fall. And then in the winter, if you can find that same tree, I'd like you to explore it with your partner. And at that time, that tree will have no leaves. It'll just be like this. A branch, it'll just have its branches. All the leaves are gone. So feel that tree in the winter. There might be some snow on it where you live, or there may not, and it will have no leaves. And then in the spring, I'd like you to go out to your favorite tree, and you're gonna see little tiny and feel little tiny buds that are gonna be coming off of those branches. And that is a new leaf. So I hope that you guys enjoyed your nature walk today, that you can make some food for our feathered friends, the birds, and that you can find your own tree to explore all year long. Thank you. Our craft is all finished. I'm trying to find my object sign somewhere for finished. I will find that in just a moment.
I bet it's covered with leaves and sticks and branches and feathers.
And I mentioned one more thing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I want to show this as well. Because we talked about water yesterday, I also found on my walk real quickly a rock and birch bark. And you can make canoes out of birch bark. A lot of indigenous cultures who are native to the Americas made canoes, probably in Minnesota where Jessica's from. And then I found a rock, and we talked about what sinks and what floats. I'm thinking this rock is going to sink. But I wondered about the birch bark that I peeled off of my bark tree. And this is very papery, it's very thin. If it makes boats, I wonder if it's going to float. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. And they float. So they figured out that that bark would make excellent canoes, which I think is so neat. That's all.
This is Anahit. Can I mention something?
Sure.
So thank you, Miss Andrea and Miss Jessica, for sharing everything. So we have in our house, we have a mama bird, not in the house, but right outside of our door, outside of our patio door. A mama bird builds a nest. She built it about 4 years ago. And since then, every year she comes and refreshes it. And it is amazing to listen to those birds as they hatch, because at first their sound is so high pitched. It is barely, you can barely hear it. And then as they grow, the little birds, their sound becomes a little bit lower pitch and you can hear it much easier. And then she teaches them how to fly. You can almost hear their wings flap. It is just so amazing to watch them grow. And then every year in the spring, she comes and lays the eggs and then teaches them how to fly, and off they go. And then she comes back again next spring. There's so much in nature that you can feel and touch, but then also hear. And it's amazing if you can follow that progress. It's just so much fun.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. This is Miss Jess again, so I'll go ahead and pull up our schedule. And if you have your all done tactile, you can use that. Otherwise, I'm going to take the craft, which is a picture of scissors, glue, paint, take it off of my schedule because we are all done. Before we do our stretches, I would just like to thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really proud that you were willing to explore nature with us using all of your senses. Maybe touch, if you were comfortable with touch, or listening to the sounds or the smells of what everything smells like. I want to thank all of the people who are helping us today. So all of our campers and all of our support people, you guys are very brave too. You're trying new things, you're here with us, and it's wonderful, and I appreciate it. So in our closing, I have our rubber band. It's gonna let me know that the next thing I'm going to do are my goodbye stretches, and then we will be done with camp for today. So if you can follow me with our 3 stretches that we do to open and close our camp, arms straight out in front of you, however is comfortable. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Arms straight above us, as high as you're comfortable with. Could just be down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And our last stretch, wrap your arms around yourself like a hug. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job, everyone.
And thank you all very much. What I'd like to remind everyone is this was only our first week of camp. We have a couple weeks break, and then we will be back again the week of July 27th. So that means we will have a webinar on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of July, and we sure hope you join us. Thank you, Andrea and Jessica and Anahit. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.